Hey there, guys, and welcome to another episode. And in today's episode, we are discussing what is a proactive game plan. But just before we get too far going on into the video, we make lots of great content here on the channel. But did you know that over 94% of people that are watching this video right now aren't subscribed? It would be of great help for this channel if you would consider subscribing, so please think about subscribing. It really helps out the channel a lot. So, we are discussing what a proactive game plan is, and I've sort of talked about it a fair bit here on the channel, but if you're wondering what a proactive game plan is, essentially, like, what is that? What does that mean? That doesn't mean that you have to sit down at a table and say, okay, cool, I'm going to immediately win as quickly as possible, like on turn 1, 2, 3, whatever, and combo off, and nobody else really got to play. That is not really what it means. Like, that is proactive. You are pushing like your strategy out there and saying, this is what I'm playing, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm going to win. That is still proactive, but to me, that is too proactive for most pods. If you know your play group plays that way or whatever, sure, you can play that way, or if people want to play that way just to see what it's like or whatever, sure, you can do that again if you really want to, whatever, that's all cool. I don't really, tell you guys what to do or what not to do. It's up to you guys to decide what you want to do and not do. But again, I don't suggest it because it's not really that fun to watch somebody sit there and play solitaire, in my opinion. Or just like give you the scroll highlights of how they're going to win and whatnot on turn 2, 3, whatever. To me, that's not really that fun. What I'm talking about is more or less the same thing in theory, but just slower, I guess. Like, you're not going to win very quickly, but you are still pushing ahead to win. Everything, for the most part, that you're doing is pushing you towards winning the game actively. You're not just going to sit down and going to go, okay, I hope that my opponents scoop, or I hope that somehow I can mill them out even though I've only got like a couple of cards in my deck that maybe can mill a few cards maybe, or maybe I have one combo of like Grindstone, Painter's Servant or whatever, but I don't really have many tutors to find both of them, whatever, things like this. Like, that's not really that big of a proactive game plan, in my opinion, or whatnot. But again, some people might think that it is. So again, a proactive game plan is not just saying, I'm going to play whatever, let's say creatures, or let's say artifacts. You've got to have a reason to play that permanent. Why are you playing that permanent? Right, well, I am playing creatures because I have Craterhoof Behemoth, or I have whatever, Endray's Forerunners, let's say, or something like that. I have a very big payoff, or I have a few very big payoffs for playing all of these creatures, or my commander synergizes with playing creatures, or it makes creatures in the off effects that basically synergize with what my commander's doing, or whatnot. So I have a lot of landfall abilities, and a lot of the best landfall abilities are tokens, so therefore I'm getting a lot of tokens. And what is the best thing to do with a lot of tokens? Go wide and then punch hard with something like Craterhoof Behemoth. So again, like, an proactive game plan is knowing what you're going to do and why you're doing it. Like, for the most part, or a plan that, again, is based on, okay, I'm playing artifacts. Why am I playing artifacts? Because my commander works well with artifacts, and my colors have a lot of good support stuff that is, able to net me wins with that specific strategy. Like, say, Osgear. That's a really new and great commander that's very powerful with artifacts and can be built in a very competitive way if you know what you're doing. But again, it can still be built in a more casually sort of way and can still be fairly good. It can generate decent value and whatnot and can do lots of great things. So it's an interesting build that some people, have adopted in the last few years. There's all kinds of decks that are out there. There's enchantment decks. There's, Voltron decks. Again, there's all kinds of decks out there that exist in our format. Every one of them has to have a proactive game plan to win. If you're playing Voltron, you need equipments. You need card draw to find your equipments. You need ramp to get your equipments onto your commander, or you need ways of cheating those equipments onto your commander so that, again, you can, suit your commander up, or it's mostly going to be your commander, come on, let's be honest, or whatever you're trying to hit people with for that Voltron damage to kill them. So, again, everything is part of your plan. Ramp is part of your plan because, again, you need ramp to play whatever you're playing. You can't sit there and say, oh, okay, I'm just going to sit here with 4 lands for the rest of the game and hope to draw a 5th or a 6th at some point or whatever, or I hope that 5 mana is enough. You need to be accelerating your mana. You need to be able to say, okay, cool, I'm going to go and find myself another mana rock. Or whatever. I'm going to play this mana rock. I have enough mana rocks, or I have enough of that ramping effect or whatever to get, enough mana to do all the things that my deck wants to do. I have enough card draw to find enough of the pieces that actually I want to play, or that I need to ramp into the things that I can play, or I need to ramp into the card draw that I need to play to find the things that I'm going to play. So all of those pieces are part of a proactive strategy. Ramp, card draw, and all of that is part of it. So it's a whole system. No matter what deck you're playing, your deck is going to play those things because, again, you just need cards to play, you need mana to play, and you need lands to play. So all of those things are obviously going to automatically be in your deck. After that, it's kind of hard. And I sort of discussed this a little bit in my sort of recent video. I think it's recent, maybe. I don't know whether it's actually come out yet. But, that was deck building guide. So you still, in a proactive game plan, need reactive spells. Being reactive is not being not proactive, essentially. You're putting those spells in your deck to know that the format is full of things that you're going to need to remove. So you're proactively putting them in your deck to go, okay, if I need this spell at some point, I will have it. At least hopefully, so it's one of those things that, okay, cool, I have the answer in my deck. And if I can find that answer in my deck, then I can be successful in getting rid of it and therefore getting ahead and therefore getting further along with what I want to do. Same with board wipes. Board wipes are the same with single target removal. You know that people are going to play things. Sometimes you're going to be the one that is behind, is in second to last place, or is in last place, or is in maybe third place, but still you're not got a lot of stuff going on, and you just have to get rid of everything. It's still part of your plan to be if I'm in trouble or if I'm behind, these are, cards that I will need, yeah, sure, again, I don't want to run too many of them because, again, I maybe need one per game at the most. And that's where I want it. I want it to be like, okay, cool, I drew the board wipe that I needed, or I'm way ahead. It can be the opposite as well because, like, some of those board wipes can be asymmetrical, which is like means that I play it and it really doesn't affect me or just does not affect me. So that means that, hey, I just get rid of all your stuff and my stuff's still here, and oh, look, I kill you all, or I almost kill you all. So those can set you up really well. But whatever game plan you have, like whether it's enchantments, whether it's artifacts, everything in your deck needs to be there for a reason. Like, okay, I have Eternal Witness in my deck, whatever. Let's take that as an example. Why is it in my deck? Because I know that some of my things are going to get blown up, or I'm going to have to cast, a kill spell or destroy or exile spell on something. So I know that I am going to need some of the spells that are in my graveyard sometimes, and it is very useful to get some of those spells back to my hand again to replay so that I can, again answer another threat, do something else, what have you. So they're really helpful to me in that circumstance because, again, I can utilize them in another way. That means that, again, they are part of what my deck might want to, or might need to do to play the game or to, survive. So, again, there's all these little things that you might not think are proactive or whatnot, but they actually are. No, and there aren't that many decks that I don't consider to be proactive for the most part. There are only really control decks and sort of stacks decks, which are almost the same sort of thing for the most part, and sort of Punisher style decks. Like, I would consider Turgid a Punisher style deck because it but it doesn't really give you much choices, really. Like, the worst decks are in the format are the decks that don't really give you much choice and basically just take over the game very quickly, make sure that you really can't do anything, and then for just like, steal everything from you and say, oh, okay, we're going to play a little game of solitaire and it's going to take a few minutes, but I've basically already won. Like, those aren't the fun decks that are in this format to me. Like, there are also some decks that just sort of, it seems like they fit into this realm where it's like Reaper King. Like, the only thing to do with that deck is to basically blow everyone else's stuff up. Like, what else are you doing with that deck? Like, it is a proactive game plan to go, oh, well, I can blow everyone's stuff up and therefore I will be ahead. But even when, like, again, like, there's certain levels to this where I'm just like, sure, I can blow up somebody's lands or whatever, but I don't care about blowing up their lands. Like, there's a level of proactiveness that becomes detrimental or whatever to the overall, like, gameplay and whatnot. Oh yeah, I can blow up everyone's lands if I really want to, but, should I? Like, again, if you want people to sit there and watch you play the game of solitaire, or just like concede, which some people apparently love to do, which I don't really get, which I might talk about in another video. But again, like, I just don't get that whole, like, I get it to a degree. People love to be horrible, which is another thing I want to talk about in another video. But again, it's one of those things where I just don't get that this is actually proactive. You're not winning the game, or you're not advancing yourself to winning the game. You're just setting everyone back to the Stone Age. That isn't really proactive. If I remove one thing from your board, then yeah, sure, that was a proactive play because I needed to get rid of that thing or whatever. If I board wipe, then it's a proactive thing because I'm getting rid of your boards because either I can punch through for damage or I hope to be able to like rebuild and get back in this game because I'm behind and I have the chance to win if I play my cards right. Now sometimes it doesn't always happen that way, but again, you can do those things. So it is proactive. Yeah, so, proactive means a lot of different things, but it is hard sometimes to, like, find where some of the edges are, and I sort of outline some of them that I think are sort of outside of the edges, but that's just my opinion on them. Like, I don't think that Stacks is proactive. What is proactive about it? Like, to me, what is your actual win condition in your Stacks deck or in your control deck or whatnot? What is the actual way that you're actually actively winning or setting yourself up to win? It's not just stopping your opponents from winning that makes you win. That's not how it works. Like, you need to actually have ways to win, which I sort of have talked about before. You have to play something that says, this is my combo, this is how I win, or whatnot. You can't just go, oh, well, I hope to play the game of attrition, or I hope that they mill themselves out, or I hope that they just scoop out of frustration. Those aren't proactive game plans. Like, I have Thassa's Oracle Dark Depths combo in my deck, and I can easily get to, at least the instant or sorcery. I think Dark Depths is an instant, actually, part of that combo. I can tutor for it with multiple different spells that I have in my deck, and, I just need to find Thassa's Oracle, or I can find Enter the Infinite, or whatever. I can, draw my whole deck in other ways or whatnot. So there are other ways that I can, win the game essentially with what I'm doing. The the other aspects of your deck might not be 100% proactive onto that specific like one combo, but they can be proactive in the rest of the game because, oh, this enchantment just so happens to give me something proactive to do. I don't think that, that there isn't, that proactive is the only way to play. Like, there are some decent cards out there that aren't proactive cards. Like, let's say Ghostly Prison isn't a proactive card to a degree for the most part, but it is a fairly decent card. I wouldn't specifically play it because I just don't like it and I don't think it's that good really, but it's an alright spell, and a lot of people play Propaganda and Ghostly Prison and those sort of style effects, that Pillow 40 style of effect, because they go, well, it can be proactive if I know that a lot of people play creature-based decks, and therefore, for the most part, they're going to have to pay 2 mana every time they want to attack me. If they want to attack me with one thing, I guess it's not that good. If they want to attack me with a lot of things, then I guess it's really good. Or if they even want to attack me with a few things, then it's pretty good. But again, maybe they'll not have the mana for, attacking me this turn. Maybe they'll forget. They'll go, and people do that. They go ahead and they'll play their spells and they'll go, oh, did you pay the 2 to attack me? And they'll go, oh, yeah, I didn't remember that I had to pay 2, so I can't attack you now, so I'll just attack someone else or whatever. So it's one of those things that it can deter people in a proactive way, but I don't really think that they are proactive, but you could count them as being proactive in some cases. So, like, there is grey areas to some of those things. Like, I am playing Smokestack because my deck is a stacks deck. And for me to win the game, I've got to whittle my opponents down. So you could look at it that way. But again, to me, like, it doesn't actually like do that much, because you've got to be able to break the parity of the card. Now, yes, again, a lot of the decks that do run a lot of these sorts of cards that aren't really that proactive, are more staxing or more controlling or whatnot, do have those. But again, that's 1 in 99, or maybe 2 in 99 cards that you have that actually help you. Maybe your commander does, it depends what your commander is. If your commander's one of them, or maybe one of the 3 or whatever, or 4 or 5 or whatever it is, again, maybe you have enough, because again, you've got access to your commander, so it just doesn't really matter that you've got too many more in your deck, because hey, look, I've got my commander out and I can just do what I want to do with that. So, but again, it does depend. So, but my perspective is always to being like, why am I playing this? Like, do I specifically benefit from this? And how much of my deck is dedicated to benefiting from, all of these stacks pieces? If there's not enough cards that are actually benefiting you from like having these stacks pieces, then what's the point in really running those benefit cards, because you're not going to see most of them. And then it's like, well, why are you playing the control or stacks pieces? Because it's like, well, if I can't find the cards that break the parity enough of the time to make that relevant, then I might as well not be playing the stacks pieces either. So, like, it doesn't make sense to me in that regard. Again, if your commander is on that, frame, it's just, I think it's one of those things that a lot of people just fall into, being like, well, my commander is a staxing kind of commander, so I guess I'll just completely lean into that because it's got no other synergy or whatever. So that's the only thing I can see to build around. So I just don't agree with that. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me to build a commander like that. Like, again, maybe that's my bad and my fault, or I'm in the wrong mind frame for that. But again, if I see a commander that says my spells cost 1 less and my opponent's spells cost 1 more, then I'm going to try to run maybe like a eggs combo deck around it, because I'm like, well, that seems really cool. I'm going to kind of play all these 1 or 2 mana or whatever rocks or whatever Cheerios style, and going to storm off or whatever. That seems much more interesting and much more proactive, because I'm actively doing something. I've got a game plan. That means, it's hard, it might be hard for my opponents to cast their, counter spells. It might be hard to for my opponents to cast any of their spells, because, or it might slow them down just that little bit. So that might be worth it to me, but it will help me out immensely to be like, okay, I can play most of my spells for basically no mana and keep drawing cards, keep trying to find my pieces and whatnot, to engage the game plan that I actually have. My game plan is to, kill everyone with infinite, playing of Cheerios or whatever. Like, combos are proactive because they're actively trying to win, but again, like, to me, I don't play them because I don't want to be that proactive or that have that level of power of deck. That's just me. Again, and then maybe in the wrong of, like, some people want to play that. That's fine. Again, same with stacks. Some people might want to play that because that's what they enjoy, but again, we're all playing the game. Everyone who's in the game has stakes in the game, you know. and we're all giving our time to the game. Again, we're the more enfranchised players that play this game and like go out of our way to think about these things. Like, again, I know that, but for those people that aren't, it's much more annoying. You know, we don't value our time sometimes because we're nerds and we're geeks and we're gamers. You know, and what else are we going to do? You know, like, so we'll play games all the time or whatnot, and just play games one after another if we want to or if we can. It doesn't really matter that much to us, but again, still the experience can be bettered by people playing games that, you know, everyone finds fun or interesting, or at least having some, you know, variance. Like you don't have to play the same deck over and over again, or you don't have to play it over and over again the same way. Like, sometimes I'll go, you know what, every time that I play this deck, I seem to have to attack this person. Why? Because they seem to always almost be the threat. So it's one of those things. If they continue to be the threat, then what am I meant to do? Like, I can't just sit there and go, oh, well, I'm not going to attack them because they're the threat. They're the threat. I've got to try to attack them or do something against them or whatever, or make deals with another person to like shake them down or to do something against them, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to play the game or do what I want to do. And maybe I'll become the threat and maybe someone will have to team up against me. So that's fine with me again, but it's one of those things where if you notice some of those things in your game, it's like, geez, man, I always seem to have to attack you. You always seem to be the threat or whatever. If they weren't the threat, then you probably would be like, hey, wait a minute, I'm the threat. So I guess, well, I just have to attack everyone or try to attack as many people as possible because I'm the threat or whatever right now. So what else am I meant to do? Like, you know, like, it's hard on both sides being, you know, in the game. So, but it's the game. The game's the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game, sort of thing, or whatever. You know, like, it's one of those things. It's all in good fun to that extent. If no one's having fun, you know, like, with what's happening, then something's gone wrong, you know, like, you know, it's one of those things too. You've got to play to the playfulness or play to some of the other things that are in the game or whatnot, because if somebody's not happy with how the game's going, it's like, well, you know, they're sad because they can't really do anything and they're just in a bad position and you're in a really good position. And that happens a lot. It's just like, oh, okay, you know, I've had both sides. I've had all the sides. I know how it is to be behind and just being like, cool, I'm not really doing anything and can't really do anything. And one player's just dominating the game and then they win the game because no one else can really do anything, and that kind of sucks. So, but it's also just like, well, I'm ahead and no one else is really posing a threat to me. So I guess I should just try to kill people. I don't want to sit here and drag the game out too much for people because, you know, people don't want to just sit here and be like, okay, cool, come on, are you winning yet, or what's going on? Are we dead yet? What's, you know, like, so again, it's hard to like sit there and go, well, you know, this sucks because I can't do anything, and it's like, well, I have to kill everyone because, you know, what else am I meant to do? The game's got to end, and, you know, if I don't end it, then people are going to be more sad and more pissed at me because the game didn't end or whatever. So, yeah, it's tough situations sometimes all around. So it's just one of those things. It's how the games go. Sometimes people don't have their removal or whatnot, or sometimes you don't hit your third land or whatnot. All these things happen. And again, or whatever. So it's just hard to, you know, get these games. And we're all lucky. You know, this is one of the things that we worry about. Again, you know, we could be living completely different lives. And again, it's funny. We and I say, and we've all know this. We all obsess over cardboard rectangles. We call it cardboard crack for a reason, because that is what it is. We're obsessed with this great game that we all play. And again, we all have great passions within this game and opinions on this game and whatnot. So, we all come to this game as the shonen protagonist or whatever, and that. So we all think that we deserve, to be the shining star or whatever and do cool things. And we all want to show our friends and our families and whatnot that play with us the cool things that we've built into our decks. And hey, look, I've got 50,000 Scoot Swarm tokens. Or whatever. I've got, 20, Nixflumations or whatever. It's funny to see some of these things happen and whatnot and go, holy crap. But it isn't the most fun to sometimes be like, well, shit, that person's going to win, whatever. Things like that. But again, you can have these things with your friends to be like, tell somebody else the story of the game. Like, so what happened? What we were playing a game yesterday and such did this and then they did that and then they had 20 Nixflumations or whatever. Or I was playing yesterday and I had 50,000 squirrel tokens or whatever and things like this. It's all part of the fun, and people like go, yeah, well that was insane and we all couldn't do anything and no one had a board wipe and whatnot. But whatever, it's all part of what we do as, players of this game. And again, this is the best game. And I want to maybe tell a story about this in another video, but, I think, I don't know whether people would be interested, but maybe tell me in the comments if you guys would be interested in hearing how I came into playing Magic a couple of years ago and whatnot, and why. Like, I'm not going to go too deep into too much stuff, but, if you guys want to hear about that sort of story and whatnot, because it's an interesting story, and I think we all have our own, like, genesis of how we got into the game and whatnot. But again, I think some people might be interested, so, and we can all share our stories together if you guys want. But anyway, guys, that is pretty much it for this video. If you liked it, tell me what you think below about proactive gameplay and whatnot. Am I right? Am I wrong? You guys let me know, This is just the way I look at the game because I like to not mess around and whatnot. That is it. I don't want to waste people's time with, like, trying to sit there and play 6-hour long games or whatever. I'm not going to board wipe every single turn, whatever, things like this. But anyway, again, that is my way of playing, like, maybe it's not the best way, but sometimes it is, a fairly fun way and a fairly even way to play because everyone gets to mostly do what they want and, anyone has the opportunities to win. But, again, let me know what you guys think right down there in the comments, and let me know if you want to hear my origin story of how I got into Magic. But let me know all those things, write it down there in the comments below. Hey, you've just finished watching one of our videos. A bunch of other videos are popping up on your screen now for you to check out, so why not check them out?